Welcome to Herd Nerds. I'm so glad you're listening today because I have a wonderful couple that I have enjoyed grading and seeing their entries in the Triple Crown. And I actually want to talk about a bull they have that I'm very fond of. And just their whole story is encouraging to all of us. So, welcome today, Jessica and Jason Winall. Hi, guys. How are you?
Doing well. How are you, Desi?
Doing great, doing great. I can't wait to let people know how you got started and everything that they've won the Triple Crown before. They won reserve this year and they've been in the top 5 every year. So you're really going to want to listen about their genetics and their program. It's a winner. I can tell you that myself. Their stakes have been put through the ringer on testing and always come out on top. So let's give a good listen to the Winalls as they tell us all about their program.
Well, thank you for the kind introduction, Desi. We appreciate everything you've done by hosting the Triple Crown and the fame that we've gotten along the way because of it.
So, do you think that entering the Triple Crown has actually helped you get your genetics out there and let people see what you're doing in your program as far as, your steak and carcass qualities?
Absolutely has. It's gotten our name out there. A lot of recognitions come from it. A lot of people realize our program that never would have realized that we had a program before. But it's also given us the ability to evaluate our program and kind of know where we are based on the other breeders in the Wagyu industry as well.
So, how long have you guys been in the business? When did you start? And I want to know when you got Larry. Oh, by the way, listeners, that's my favorite bull.
So our farming journey started in 2009. Jason and I are in the construction industry. I'm an architect. He grew up a residential framer with his family's company. That's where we met, and that's also what we do as our day to day. Is we run a design build construction company and build houses. So in '09, Jason was going through the neighboring county of ours in Cumberland and saw an auction sign. I've always laughed that Jason loves land. We have land in multiple counties, and I'm never surprised when he's like, I want to buy another piece of land. But this one was a farm, and he stopped in, and the auction was going on, and I don't even know if it was much time left when you got there. What was the story?
No, they had sold 20 acres off at the front, and it went for a price that was reasonable for the area, but wasn't a great deal. So we didn't even bid on the 20 acres in the front. The 144 acres in the back, they were auctioning it off, and just nobody was bidding. It was back in '08, I think, when the economy was at its worst and everything, and we didn't have much extra money at the time, but they couldn't get hardly anybody to bid, and the bid was really low. And I started panicking and called a friend to see if he'd go in halves with me on it, and he didn't answer the phone. And called Jessica's grandfather to see if he'd go in halves with us on it. And he said, "Sure, it sounds like a good deal. Buy it." And so I raised my hand, and 5 seconds later, they said sold. So he didn't realize we were that close to the end of the auction, but that's how we acquired the farm. And it had a few little fields on it, a couple of little rundown barns, but the vast majority of it was just cut over where they had timbered the property. So there was a lot of work on us stumping it out and getting everything smoothed and leveled and grass planted and everything. But that's where our farming operation started. That one day just stopping at an auction on the side of the road.
Yeah, and I did that too. I added property to my farm, but and I got some property that had been cut. But what people don't realize is how much it costs to get it where you can actually seed it and get it growing. So maybe you get that great price per acre for clear cut, but then you get in there and you've got all that debris and everything else you have to move and smooth out. It adds up. But I'm so glad you got that start. And so tell me about your genetics, how you got started with. I want to know about Larry.
We're getting there. so, so after we got the land, it was just like Jason said, we had a lot of clearing. We had to put all the fencing in. We had to do everything. So we actually started with cattle in 2012. It was registered Angus. That's kind of what's predominant here in Central Virginia. We went to the Hokie Harvest, which is Virginia Tech's, the agricultural college's sale, and we bought two females, Shadow, and then her calf at her side, which was also another Shadow And so we ended 2012 with 5 cows in the field, and no bulls. So Jason decided that we were going to artificially breed. We had 3 registered Angus girls. We had 2 commercial Angus. And so when January came and it was time to breed everybody back, he decided to just try Wagyu, buy some straws of it through Origin and ABS, and just kind of see what it's all about. So fast forward to 2014, the animals were born. We had a bull and a heifer. Candy was our heifer, and then the bull was just a steer. So they're all called dinners. And so we raised them up, and we had them in the pastures with everybody else. And so when we hit 2016, it was time for the steer to be processed. He went in with another Angus steer born at the same time. And so I always say in spring of 2016, Jason died and went to steak heaven when our first was produced.
So that was the first time we had actually tasted Wagyu. We had heard about it. We didn't really know if we believed the hype behind it or not, but that was our first experience. And comparing it to the full-blood Angus that we did, that was born the same week, fed on the same program, processed the same date, it was just night and day difference. So from that point on, we started acquiring all the Wagyu genetics that we could afford to acquire.
Yep. So 2016 was when we joined the Wagyu Association, switched the whole herd from Angus to Wagyu. We still have a few registered Angus girls. They're all recips for us, so they help us with our embryo program. But pretty much our whole herd today is full-blood Wagyu, still a few F1, F2s, F3s, because we're in the multiple different years now. And from there, we started with embryos, we started with cattle, and I would
bought some pregnancies.
Yeah, bought pregnancies.
Pregnant recips to get started.
And so once we got all those going and in production, that's when we decided that we needed a bull. And so we started on the search for the full-blood Wagyu bull. Just, we can AI to everything, but just to have a Wagyu back up everybody in the herd would just help elevate our program. And that's when Larry came.
All right, my little Larry. And I just want to tell everybody the reason I'm so excited about Larry is I've seen carcasses every year from this bull, and I told Jessica the first year his steaks were so amazing. I said, you need to next year, breed him to a couple of different females and send those in. Let's just see, we just want to see how consistent Larry is at producing these steaks. And every year, it's the thing about this bull is he's been extremely consistent. And that's hard to find a bull that one carcass after the other is so consistently great in all the merits that we consider important in having great steaks. So go on and tell me about Larry.
So we acquired Larry from the Cane Ridge dispersal. I think it was Paris, Kentucky, where Cane Ridge was. They had a big dispersal sale, and we went through the pedigrees and we did our homework and we researched. And Larry is actually CRCC 122B.
Yep,
is his registered name, and we just named him Larry when he got to the farm because he reminded me of a gentleman named Larry that used to work for us. So.
And I said that he needed to have a name if he was going to be our herd bull. Like CRCC 122B was just boring. So
yeah, I've always known him as Larry, and people say, "Well, who is he?" What did I say? Oh, I don't remember. Let's look it up for you.
So Larry sire is Kitagani Jr., which is one of the highest marbling import bulls that originally came from Japan. But Kitagani Jr. lacks growth. And we knew that, but the unique thing about his pedigree is his dam. His dam was bred and raised by Michael Goodell of Muddy Flats, and her sire is Itashiga Fuji, which is one of the largest Wagyu bulls that the breed's ever had. So he's a good balance. He's got the high marble and lack of growth on top, but then he's got Itashiga Fuji on the bottom that brings the size. But then the bottom side of that is the TF709 cow, which we think is probably one of the strongest cows in the Wagyu breed. She's also the dam of 813 Kimito Fuku, which 813 I think sired one of the winning Triple Crowns for Pete Esterman. And then she's also the dam of the Muddy Flats Kimito Fuku that Mountain View Wagyu has in, I think it's New Mexico.
Lone Mountain.
No.
Yes.
So she's a very strong cow. When I spoke to Pete about his entries in the Triple Crown when he won it the 2 years back to back, he was saying that 1 year he thought it was Michi over Hikakora, which is what 709 is. The next year he believed it was sired by the 813 bull, which is out of 709. 709 being on the bottom side of Larry. Larry won grand champion in 2021. He won reserve champion in 2022. He was reserve champion in 2023. So I think if you really dive into the pedigrees of the Triple Crown winners, 709 is probably in the pedigree of more cows than not that have done really well in the Triple Crown.
And it not only, he wins overall, but just the fact that this is the thing that has led me to start doing some additional research this year. And that is that Larry's entries have all been in the top 5 of the taste panel, if not the top, every single year. And that, I mean, with different females. So I'm working with a lipids expert at Purdue Research Institute, and I'm really going to dive into some different things genetically tied to taste. I think that is related to the lipid profiles, and maybe the lipids even from the meat interiorly. The the part of the lipid test that actually can tell us tenderness and fatty acid profile and taste, because those lipids also bathe that steak in the marbling. But I'm going to look into that. It's been very interesting from my standpoint to see how he's produced in the taste panel year after year at different universities across the US. I mean, this just isn't coming from, one place. It's all over, and it's very objective. So I'm excited to see what we find out about that. Thanks to Larry.
That's the unique thing about the way you're running the Triple Crown, taking it to a different university each year. If you had it at the same university year in and year out, then somebody could probably hone in on what they're looking for. But when you switch it up like that, it's no way for us to predict 3 years from now while we're making a cross what that university is going to be looking for.
I agree. And, that's why I wanted to go to different universities, because I didn't want to stay, in one place. I wanted to be able to experience all the different researchers and their facilities and the way, and they do things different. Each university has their own way of conducting things, and it's been very interesting. And of course, I was at Auburn this year, and I love the way Auburn conducts itself. They're very thorough, and I mean, just right down to making sure everything's perfect. And the testing has changed dramatically as we progress. There's a lot of AI coming into it now, and a lot of different ways to test for these. So, what do you think attributes Larry's winning the taste category so much? Are you guys have any kind of special feed you're doing, or?
It's no special feed. We don't feed as well as we should. We grind our own feed on the farm, but mainly because it's a cost savings. So we buy tractor trailer loads of grain at a time. We feed mainly a corn-based diet, but if we can get a better deal on wheat or a better deal on barley, we'll feed some of that sometimes. So we don't do things as right as we should with the feed program, but we do it just well enough to highlight our genetics.
Right, right. So the genetics are very important. I need to let people understand that too.
We do believe that we do believe that different genetics do bring different taste profiles, and we've felt strongly all along that Larry's progeny do taste different than the other ones. We can raise them the same. We can have some steaks that have just as much marble in or even more than some of the Larry steaks, but they just don't have that pop when you bite into them that the Larry steaks seem to have.
Right. And so your customers are seeing that too, right? They're seeing the taste profile and really wanting to get that flavor in out of the steaks.
Our very first year we participated in the Triple Crown was 2020, and all we had was a percentage out of Larry to send in that year. So we were the little guys on the block. Nobody knew who we were. We sent in a percentage out of Larry. Didn't really know what we were doing. Didn't really know how well to feed animals out or anything. But he won the taste category that year for the percentage. And that year, you actually auctioned off the steaks that had done well in the different categories. And Joe Pettit ended up buying one of those steaks off of Larry's percentage. And after he tasted it, he called and gave us a really good compliment on the flavor profile and how it stacked up against the other steaks and everything.
Oh wow, I didn't know Joe bought those steaks. That's great.
He did. We were nervous because we were so small at the time. We didn't think anybody was going to bid on our steaks. We felt like all the big name guys were going to get, recognized, and we were just going to kind of fall through the cracks. But we were so proud when Joe stepped up and bought our steaks.
And you even called us on that one because I don't even know if on that entry form I had selected to show the farm name or information or not. And you were like, do you really want this in here? And should, we really need to put your farm name. I was like, okay, whatever, Desi.
Yeah. I'm always proud of everybody that does well, and you do need your farm name, and I know that feeling.
Yep.
You have something and you really think it's great, but you've got all these big time, people, and you just kind of are a little bit shy about going up, for the first time, but then you have something like you have, and it's like very consistent and great.
Well, in 2021, we only had one entry to send in. It was a full blood entry sired by Larry, but we were lucky. We won the taste category. We were first in taste. We did well in some other categories, and we actually won the Triple Crown, the grand champion of the Triple Crown in 2021. And then 2022, we stepped our game up. You told us we needed to showcase Larry over different dams and different genetics and everything. So we sent in 3 different steers sired by Larry from 3 different dams, and all 3 finished in the top 5 in the taste category. And then
they were second, third, and fourth.
Second, third, and fourth. And then
Fourth.
And then last year in 2023, we sent in 3 more sired by Larry out of 3 different dams again, and all 3 of those finished in the top 5. I think they were first, third, and fifth. So Larry's done extremely well in the taste category. He gets beat a little bit here and there in some of the other categories, but he sure holds his own in the taste category.
He does hold his own, and he's consistent. That consistency year after year after year. That's a major win for that bull for Larry, and I'm so proud that you have a bull like that. I can't wait to see as we test more and more, and you're going to help me in the send in the fatty acids the rest of this year, and we're going to see what comes up. That's very exciting news.
So this is the first picture of Larry. This would have come from the 2021 Grand Champion when we learned that we won, and Miss Desi was wanting pictures for the meat issue. So he was actually out in the field with our girls, so we had to go get him to stand and pose pretty so he could be highlighted in the magazine.
Yes.
Yep. And so then that year, this was Kelly. So this was the dam side of Kidda, the 2021 Grand Champion. She was one of our first foundational females. I'm sure she'll come back into conversation in a little while. And then you had Kidda himself. So this is the steer that was titled 2021 Grand Champion from Kelly and Larry.
I remember that picture.
You do. So then at Desi's prodding, we took Larry to Hawkeye Breeders to get him collected. And so while he was out there, they were able to get this picture with their photographer of him so we could use him to promote his semen. This is probably a picture a lot of you have seen throughout some of the sales if we've sold semen out of him. in one of his big professional pictures.
Now you've
And
bred
then,
him with Angus too, correct?
Yes,
yes,
ma'am.
we have.
For your
Quite a bit.
F1 and done
Quite a
exceptionally well with that
We
as
do.
well. So
And
he's
then,
he's a great producer for commercial breeders too.
Yes, ma'am. That's where we really found his value was when we started using him in the F1 program and saw the quality of the carcasses that we could produce with him just on a run-of-the-mill commercial Angus cow.
Uh-huh. That's
I,
well, that's
I
what
know
I
this
do
isn't,
with mine too. My bulls, I start them on, maybe 30 Angus because I want to see what they can do. And if you breed them to a full blood, then you don't know if it's on the dam side or the bull side. So that's the way I like to see it done.
yep. And I know this isn't the best picture, but this would have been 30G. So this is the 2022 Reserve Grand Champion that we had. And then this year we had TNO 25H. So this would be the picture for the 2023 Reserve Grand Champion steer, sired by Larry.
So Larry's birth weights are relatively smaller. So they're good.
Yes,
Good
ma'am.
birth weights.
Yes, ma'am. He's completely fine to breed to heifers. We never had a problem. His calves start out small. Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Well, that's
Do you want me?
wonderful.
Yep. So I'll go get you steak pictures now. I know everybody
Yeah.
wants to know about the beef. You guys were talking about a few of that. So let me get some of those pulled
All
up.
about the beef.
All about the beef.
Our cows are pretty on the inside. That's what we tell everybody.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. So this is a F1 chuck roast that our butcher took. It was one of the first couple carcasses that we started harvesting out of Larry when we were getting them back in. So it's a bone-in chuck roast.
But again, that's F1.
Yep, F1.
F1. Yep.
F1, yep. Here's a F1 chuck eye steak as well. We have an F1 flat iron. All of these were taken at our butcher shop when they were processing it, and they actually ended up posting these on their social media pages. And then this is a basket of ribeyes from Larry's F1. When you get into the steaks, I don't have very many pictures of Kidda steaks. We do know that this is one of them. It's a New York strip, a ribeye, and a Denver that Jason took when he was grilling dinner one night.
That is a great photo.
Yep. And then this is his thin sliced beef. So this is one of our products that we actually get taken out of the chuck portion of the cow. So it's like shaved steak cut really, really thin. But that is Kidda, the 2021 Grand Champion.
Well, I'm hungry now. The grill picture did it to me.
Yep.
That's
It's
great.
funny how sometimes just a spur of the moment picture on a cell phone is what makes the highlight reel.
Right. It's really great. So with your genetics, so people can get straws from Larry. They can buy straws, and you have a sale coming up, don't you?
We do. We're going to have our very first production sale. It's May 3rd and 4th.
It's the Twin Oaks Virginia Classic.
Oh.
It's going to be I say a 2-day event. The sale is only on Saturday, May 4th, but Friday, we're planning on having the cattle on site for viewing in the afternoon. We're going to have some Wagyu industry presentations. And then we have a local chef. He actually used to carry our beef in a restaurant here. It's Chef Mike Ledesma. We're calling it a Wagyu culinary experience that he's going to do. So he's actually taken a whole half of a cow, which is a Larry steer. And we are going to cook our beef many different ways, kind of like an hors d'oeuvre cocktail hour type of thing. But I know dumplings, street tacos. Jason's going to have the what is it? The griddle there, or the cast iron, like flat top for doing steaks, fresh cut, like whole loin roasts. And so you can cut off and he'll cook them up on a hot sear and give taste samples for the steaks. And then Saturday, we are going to do a few more presentations in the morning. We are going to have a lunch provided by a barbecue chef, Big Woody's Barbecue. He's actually going to be on site all day Friday, getting that wood smoker going for everything to be prepared. And then after lunch, we are going to have the sale start at 1. It's going to be through Stud Wagyu Auctions. We have been working with Joe and the team to get the catalog pulled together, which officially went to print earlier this week. So hopefully it'll be mailed out soon, but there is a digital link to the catalog at the moment for viewing. And so it should be live and online.
Well, that's exciting. And that really sounds like some good food.
And as we say, we are opening the gates at Twin Oaks. So
all right.
We're going to have our farm gates will be, our farm will be available for viewing cattle. We'll have all the live cattle on site at the barn where everything is happening. It's an off-site location. And we are going to highlight Larry.
All right.
We have his first to sell. We have a granddaughter and we have his first son. So there are some live animal genetics in the sale from Larry.
Yeah.
Well, what did you name his son? I have to know this.
So you actually named his son. I texted you a picture when he was born, and I said that's Larry's first son, or bull calf that we're keeping.
That we're gonna leave
we're leaving him a bull instead of making him a dinner. And so you were like, "Oh, it's little Larry," and so his registered name is TNO. Legit little Larry, and the reason is because his nickname on the farm is Triple L. So.
Okay. Well, wow, that is so awesome. I'm going to have to really check out little Larry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the sale's not just going to be Twin Oaks animals. Obviously, we're going to have some animals for sale. We're going to have some cow-calf pairs. We'll have some young heifers. We'll have some bulls. But Barry and Akiko Elliott are selling quite a few animals in the sale as well. He was a winner of the Triple Crown this year. So he'll be highlighting some of his bloodlines that he's so proud of. And then Stud Wagyu is going to have a few heifers in the sale. And then Mitch from up in Quillen from up in Maryland, he's got a couple heifers that he's selling in the sale as well. So we're hoping to grow this event, whether we have it every year, whether we have it every other year. But we want to offer anybody that buys into our cattle and our program at this event to be able to enter into the events in the future. So if somebody were to buy a donor cow and they produce embryos and they didn't have a good platform to sell them on, we'd like for them to be able to come back and sell them in our sale in the future. So that's the whole plan behind it. See what we can grow it into. And maybe we can grow it into a 2 or 3 day event, in the years to come, and have a good experience for everybody to come out and try our beef and see what they think of it.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And so this sale is going to have let me get the grand champion genetics and the reserve champion genetics from the Triple Crown, right?
Yes, ma'am. Triple Crown's going to be well represented.
Yep.
Yes, and can you go over those genetics? Do you know Barry's genetics as well?
Yes, ma'am.
They're similar,
so the sire,
aren't
they are. The sire of Barry's winning stake is our bull TNO 7F Hirashigitiyasu. He's a big, pretty bull, calm as can be, gentle, great feet. We just love him. And for Barry to be able to get as good a quality carcass out of his animal as he did out of a bull that big, it's impressive. I think the hanging weight was like 999. It was like 1 pound shy of 1,000 pounds, which is impressive. And I think the IMF was just over 50%, I believe, is what it was on our carcass camera anyway. So it was just a beautiful steak that anybody would be proud to produce. The unique thing was our reserve champion, Dam, is a full sister to 7F. So the bull that produced the winning steak this year, his little sister produced a reserve steak this year. So
wow.
we were pretty proud of that. Obviously on Barry's steak, it goes back to his Malachite or Malachite cow that's done so well for him that he's gotten such good carcasses out of.
And we actually harvested a full brother to the 7F and 9F genetic line. And I can share you some pictures of his carcass, just so you can kind of see.
So when we produce those 7F and 9F, and we actually have one 24F, we have one 27F. So we got two bulls and two heifers out of that same cross, same sire, same dam. And we left both of the bulls for a long time, trying to figure out which one we liked the best. It wasn't until 27F was 14 months old that we finally decided that we didn't need two out of the same cross, and that we liked 7F a little better. 7 was growing a little bit better, a little calmer, and we just decided to go with 7F. So again, we didn't steer 27F until he was 14 months old, but we have some pictures of the quality of his beef. Even though he had that testosterone in him for 14 months, they were still impressive meat.
That's very impressive because they say that testosterone levels do decrease the marbling and but wow.
So that would be his ribeye. When we picked it up at the butcher, Jason's holding it out the basket. And then again, that shaved steak product of ours, that was his shaved steak, which comes out of the chunk portion of the cow.
Uh-huh.
We were just very proud for a bull bred for a lot of growth and have a lot of size to be a bull for 14 months and still produce something with that much marbling in it. We thought was special.
Oh yeah, that's extremely great. I mean, yeah, that's
And then again for 7 to produce the winning, the grand champion this year, and his little sister to produce the reserve champion. I'm not sure if that's ever been done in the Triple Crown history or not,
no,
but it's
it has not.
pretty cool for those bloodlines to come together and be showcased the same year.
I agree. Well, I hope if people are starting out, they may want to call you or talk to you. I mean, I would say some Larry genetics would be great. Great way to go. If you're looking for great carcasses.
When we decided to have the sale, we were trying to figure out who we wanted to host the sale for us. It was hands down going to be Joe Pettit, just because of the support that he's given our farm. Like we were speaking earlier, when we were little guys and entered the Triple Crown, he bought that steak. He called us, complimented us on the quality of the steak, the tenderness, the taste, and everything. When we won the Triple Crown the following year, he was the first person, like outside of our little group of Wagyu people that we deal with on a regular basis, to be able to pick the phone up and call us and congratulate us, tell us what an honor it was. Kind of really explained to us like who we beat that year, the people that have been breeding Wagyu cattle longer than we even knew Wagyu cattle existed, the amount of money that they had spent to acquire the genetics, the homework that they had done, and who we were really competing against the year that we won. And then we started getting phone calls from people wanting some of our genetics, wanting some Larry semen or some Larry calves and everything. And when we would ask how they found out about us, they were like, well, we called Joe Pettit trying to buy some animals from Kentucky Stud. And he told us that, as well as you're doing in the Triple Crown, as good quality of meat as you're raising and everything, that we really should reach out to you. So Joe's kind of really supported us ever since we were really little from the outside. He wasn't somebody we had a really great relationship with. We didn't know anything about him. We weren't great friends, but he was proud of the product that we were producing. And I think he felt like we were doing it step by step the right way. And he started sending people in our direction. So
I'm so glad
to get some of our genetics out there at first with the frozen genetics and the online sales. And
well, that's great. It is great to have support in this business, and it's important for people to look at the carcasses. I mean, I can't say it enough. When you cut that carcass open and you look at that carcass, that is the story of your program. That is your program. That is everything that you have put into it. And so, measuring the merits of the carcass really will give you the information that you need to make the genetic decisions. Even when people tell you, oh, that I don't know about that or this. When you look at the carcass, that tells you exactly what you need to know. And there's so many things to do with the carcass that are heritable traits, it's very important to pay attention to it. And you guys have a camera, right? You use your camera all the time.
We did. We got the MIJ carcass camera from you, and we use it all the time. And not only do we use it, but we share it. Any Wagyu producers that we know that process at the same facility that we process at, we give them the option of using our camera. So we've got
And,
something
and
good.
that's great. That's great
We feel like the more
because
data that we can collect, the better we can move this breed forth.
right, right. It is. The more you can get on your carcasses, the more knowledge you're going to have. And then, that's why we do the Triple Crown once a year. So you can not only get the data just from looking at the carcass and from the carcass camera, but we can also assess the fatty acid profiles. We can look at the tenderness evaluations. We can have a professional taste panel where you can be reviewed against your peers and other breeders. And I just think it's important that we continue to do that and learn as much as we can about what we're raising.
Yeah, yeah, we would never have the opportunity to have our meat judged the way that the Triple Crown does if it wasn't for the Triple Crown. We know that it tastes good. We know that the flavor is there. We know that the tenderness is there, but we have no way of knowing how it compares to the rest of the breeders in the country, whether we're doing things right or we're doing things wrong. So it's been very important for our program to participate in it.
And I think we're doing the meat issue this year, so I think that's going to be great. I hope everybody will send out the links to the meat issue when it's completed, and that kind of has everybody's stakes in there, pictures, a little bit about the people that entered the Triple Crown. I just think it's a great issue to have too. I love the way Ironstone Impressions puts together our meat issue. It has a lot of information, and I just love to look at people's carcasses and see what they're producing.
You've probably seen more Wagyu carcasses than anybody in the country, I imagine, with all the grading that you do. Is that not correct?
Yeah, well, I look at a lot. I look at carcasses all the time. I have, my most people have family pictures and their dogs and events in their phones, but mine's all meat. So,
It
yeah, I look at
shows your
a,
passion to the breed.
yeah, I look at a lot of beef, and
Who,
I'm so impressed. And I will say that over the years, when I first started 6 years ago, um, I see a big change. I see it getting better and better every year. I mean, people are really taking note and um, upping their genetics, and we are seeing some great beef out there.
how many different carcasses do you think you've scanned in the last 5 or 6 years?
Let's see. The last time we checked, I know it was over 35,000. You're
Who
talking full
else?
blood.
Yes, ma'am. Who else in the U.S. has had the opportunity to scan 35,000 carcasses?
I don't know. I just know I've, looked at a lot. And well, we did a lot of scanning too, not just of full bloods. One of the things I got to see was the quality of beef in the U.S. when we were working on doing the certification for USDA for the carcass camera, because I was actually able to go to Omaha and go in the big packing houses there and see, all the carcasses, and how many they do at a time. And it was amazing. And I would say the quality of beef in the USA has that quality of all beef, even Angus, has really come up in keeping with the times.
Do you think the quality of the Angus had to come up to compete with the Wagyu?
Oh boy, you put me on the spot right there. Let me see how to say this. Hold on a minute. Let me see. Okay. I've seen Angus from I've this year we had an Angus uh category where it was just Angus. We just did Angus.
Mhm.
And the quality of the Angus that I saw was exceptional. And I've seen some Rapid Creek Angus too, and it was exceptional. And it was, I have never seen Angus of that quality, but you have to remember that was for the Triple Crown, and I didn't know what they fed it. I didn't really get into it, but I did want to pursue it more to find out. But I'm, t- will say that the Angus was very high marbling, but it will never be, and I think I can say this with accuracy, it will never be the high marbling from a full blood Wagyu with genetics like you have, or that wins the Triple Crown. I've never had any entries that have come close to what full blood uh, marbling is. Once you get into the 45% IMF up, I just don't think no matter what you do to an Angus, it's never going to get there. But that does not mean that they don't have a great product, for who they sell to.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Can I put you on the spot with something else, Miss Desi?
Oh, go right ahead.
Of those 35,000 carcasses that you've scanned, what do you think the average IMF was if you had to come up with a number?
We actually did an average. Oh, and see, this is let me try to remember. I want to say the average was lower than I thought it would be, but this is all from everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say it was like 30 to 32% IMF.
That's still impressive
It
to be able
is.
to
It
get those,
is.
to have an average that high. I honestly would have
Mm-hmm.
thought the average would have been lower than that.
But on the F1s, I will say this: the ones that I've graded a lot of those too, more of those, and of the F1s, I would say that their average was about um, the average was 17 to 22. That's a large span, but 17 to 22% IMF. But that was from high end genetics. And you have to remember the ones that I grade are very conscientious breeders. It's not
Mm-hmm.
from animals that are necessarily, you know what I'm saying, not
Mm-hmm.
from you got to have very conscientious breeders producing a very high quality product, and then you have breeders that are just producing volume breeders. Let's say that you have volume, and
Mm-hmm.
I will say that averages with my conscientious breeders.
Yeah, that's impressive though.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Back to what we.
Angus, let me just say something on behalf of the Angus. The Angus steaks we had this year, I actually called the guy that entered it and said, "Hey, who's the female on this?" I would love to, breed to an Angus mama that would produce a steak like that. And we got to talking about the bloodline she came from, and it was interesting because I wasn't aware. Yeah, it's a new territory. So
Was their focus as an Angus breeder to breed the highest marbling Angus cows that they could?
they wanted all prime. They did want to get high prime all the time. So, um, and that pretty much is what we want too. We want the highest. Or at least a lot of breeders do. Now, I have talked to people that are happy getting a midpoint. They're happy with that too because that's what their customers want. I think it's people, there are a lot of people that breed to their customer base, what their customers want.
Well, I think that's smart. I think you should breed to what your customer base wants. If you're breeding something that the customers don't want, you're not going to be very successful.
Right. And I mean, I've said this before, but there's some people that enjoy a 50% IMF plus, marbling. And then there's people that really that's not their thing. They'd rather have something more like traditional American beef, where it's a lower percentage of IMF, but still a delicious, tender, great steak that they can eat. You know, when you get into the high IMF, you really can't eat a lot of it. I think there's a lot of
Yeah,
people that love a nice big steak. So
yeah, yeah.
We run into that a lot with the beef side of our farm. So, we've got the genetics and a lot, but then I also run, or Jason gets me the cows, I guess I should say. But once they go to butcher and they come back as freezer beef for farm to table, they kind of fall into my lap. And so we do farmers markets, direct to consumers. And so we do have some of our clients that prefer the percentage just because the full blood is too rich for them. And then on the
right,
flip side, we have the ones that prefer the full blood and give them the highest marbling that we can get, and they want the top of the top.
yeah.
And so there is that range, and we see it even in our freezer beef production.
Right.
One
And
thing,
and I
one
and that's what I see all the time as well. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a
one
place for everything.
Yep.
one thing I think we need to do a better job on is promoting the health benefits of the Wagyu. I think that's something that we come up really short as an industry on doing and relaying that information to our customers. And we have some customers, the first time they see their steaks, they see all that marbling and they just naturally assume it's not healthy and it's not going to be heart friendly because there's no way that they can consume that much fat and it'd be good for them. But I think if we could do a little bit better job of educating them on the quality of the fat and the health benefits of the Wagyu, I think it would change some people's perspective.
I do too, and that's one reason I'm doing that study now. We're working on getting a collection of the fatty acid profiles so that we can. I would like to have, most of the studies don't have large numbers of cattle in the studies, but I'm trying to get about 1,500 or 2,000 for our study. But we are showing that Wagyu beef is a healthy beef. It does have the good fats, and it has less of the bad fats in the makeup of the marbling. And I really want to get that out to people, but I'm waiting. I think probably the end of this year, the first of next year, I'll have um, enough of the study done where we can start going somewhere with it and publishing it, and getting letting people know how healthy Wagyu beef is.
That would be huge. I
I
think that
really
would be
think
great
it would. It
for
is.
the
It
consumers.
is, and it's been proven. I mean, it's been proven on a small scale, and so if it works on a small scale, and I've seen it for the last 6 years we've been doing the testing. There's no doubt in my mind that we're not going to see it on a large scale as well.
No, we agree. We would be excited to see the results of that study.
Yeah, we got to get out there and get that part in our advertising. I think everybody should put that in their advertising, that it is a healthy beef, because I can tell you, you can say that it's proven, and we're going to really, really put it to the test. But I mean, it's proven. It's been proven for 6 years, and we're going to prove it with quite a large sample this year. So I'm excited.
You mentioned earlier that you've seen the quality of the carcasses that you scan steady increase over the years. Where do you see the Wagyu industry 5 years, 10 years from now?
Well, there's some things with the Wagyu industry I wish was different, because we have such a great product, and we've got to have a way that we all grade the same, so that the lower end product can be affordable, and the higher end product, of course, you'll pay more for. So I've always been a proponent of paying for the grade, paying by the grade. Um, this eliminates having to designate what's F1 and what's full blood. And I will tell you this: when I was first introduced to the meat um, here in the U.S., my father and I, we bought Wagyu because it said it was Wagyu, but we didn't know till later it was actually Angus and a Wagyu, an F1 product. So, it wasn't what we were expecting, like you see on YouTube of the A5 or the high marbling full blood. And of course, there is a different texture to it. And so once we did go and we got the higher marbling, the higher IMF full blood, that was a totally different taste, and it was really good. So I think there's a couple of things we have to do. We have to either get pay by the grade, you just pay by the grade of the meat, or you have to say this is a percentage product, this is a full blood product, but they still need to be graded. You still need to grade no matter what. You need a grade. And I think some people have done a great thing by doing gold, silver, platinum. I think that's a good way to do it. Some people call it reserve, but that's the problem. Everybody's not on the same page, so the consumer's like, what do I do when they come up to it in a meat counter? What do I do?
Yeah.
Yep. We have, I break ours out for our customers as well, just so that they know what they're getting if there's something they want. So our F1 50/50 product is American Wagyu. And then our F2 75/25, I call it an American Wagyu Plus. And then we have the full blood, which is the 100% Japanese.
Right,
genetics.
the 100%. And
So they're all color coded. All the information on our online farm store is color. So it's pink, purple, and gray. And so you can look at any picture of anything, and whatever that tag color is in the bottom, it'll say exactly what it is. Or if you just go off the color, it's all of the same color.
But then you also have
that's a great idea.
Black label too. So the black labels are high end. I worked with you, Desi, to get some numbers. Once we got our carcass camera scan, we set some minimum thresholds. So how could we take our full blood product and kind of get that category that was our competition, Triple Crown level carcasses? And so we created our black label, and that is over 40% IMF with a 7% new fineness index. So it's looking at how much marbling and how fine that marbling is. And if those two thresholds are met, then it gets a black label.
That is great. And I hope everybody listening understands this. So tell me how your customers react to that. They go in, they know exactly what they're getting, right?
They do, and some of them know exactly, they want different things. Some of them, Wagyu is not very known in our area that well. The people that know it well. And then there's others that will ask questions and they don't understand that there's even different genetics, like to cows, like Angus versus Wagyu versus, any other beef breed that's out there. And so some of it's a lot of explaining. I remember when we were actually in Nashville at the conference in, Tennessee in 2019, talking to Eldon Clausen, and he says the only way that you're going to get people to know what Wagyu is to have them try it. And the moment they try it, they'll never look back. And I fully agree with that statement. At farmers markets is where I get the biggest diverse list of questions. I've been asked how our beef's different than Walmart. And I'm like, how do I answer that one?
Just taste this.
So it is.
Oh my.
So
you had somebody at the farmer's market that didn't want your product because it was frozen.
Yeah.
They said they would go to Food Line and get a fresh product.
Yep. I've had that too, because it's a frozen product when we pick it up from the butcher. But yeah, they didn't want to buy our beef at the farmer's market because it was frozen and they didn't have time to defrost it that day, that they would just go to the grocery store and get a fresh product. But mind you, I picked that animal up from the butcher 4 days before that farmer's market. So I was like, okay.
Well, and what they don't realize is Food Line just unfroze the thing before they put it out.
That's right.
But yeah, so we actually last summer instituted a taste test for people to try. We actually had a little mini Blackstone with us at market, and we would do our Angus product, which is just some of our Angus cattle. And then we actually did black label to Angus. So we went opposite ends of the spectrum for people to try, like our base and then where you can go with Wagyu. And so we got a lot of positive feedback to that. Our customers that know the Wagyu, have been with us, have had the full blood over the years, they love the black label. We never know if we're going to get it until that carcass is cut open and that scan is done. So sometimes they win the lottery if they're getting a portion of cow and it's like, hey, by the way, your portion's black label.
Yeah, that is wonderful. And see, that's what we all need to do. It's a shame that we're not all on the same page, so the consumer can just go to and pick out exactly what they want and know what it is. I mean, I love your color code idea too. That's pretty spectacular.
I try to get the graphics and the visual to making it different on top of the descriptions and explaining, because not everybody reads.
So, do you sell any fats, or do you just harvest everything yourself?
We're trying to get to the point that we can sell some fats. We just haven't gotten there yet. We honestly, when we started planning our first production sale, our whole plan was to be able to sell some fats there. We wanted some other farmers, even commercial farmers in our area, we thought would step up and purchase some of the fats to process them to taste that Wagyu for the first time. We just have such a demand for our product right now. It's all going to that. And we didn't have enough steers available to actually sell any fats at the sale.
I would say that's a good problem to have, not having enough available.
We compromised. When he was talking about selling fats, I was like, how many dinners are you taking away from me? So we actually compromised, and I held a whole steer. I didn't sell it in our store or to any of our customers. And so he has that whole steer to use for the beef of the production sale, which is probably why we're, doing so many meals, trying to highlight our beef so many different ways, is just to try to showcase that animal all the way through.
Well, let's tell people again. Let's remind them when your sale is, and how they can taste that Larry beef if they if they want to come out there and support you.
So yeah, it is going to be held in Buckingham, Virginia. It's the Twin Oaks Virginia Classic, and it is Friday, May 3rd, and Saturday, May 4th, with the actual sale for the cattle and genetics on the 4th. And it will be 2-day events with industry speakers. Hopefully, Miss Desi will be speaking for us. With the chefs on site, 2 different, the culinary experience Friday night, the barbecue lunch on Saturday. All the sale cattle will be on site at the barn, and we'll be there.
I'll get to see Larry.
Larry will be on site as a reference animal, so we are bringing him to the barn so people can see him, but he's not for sale.
Yeah, we'll have Larry there. We'll have 7F there. I'm pretty sure Barry's going to bring Malachite there too. Oh. So we'll have some animals there just to represent the Triple Crown, and people will be able to see. But they, like Jessica said, they won't be for sale. But we just want them there to showcase our programs.
Right.
But we would love for you to come there and speak and explain to everybody just how much goes into the Triple Crown. That it's not just a taste contest. You don't just send something in, a few people take a bite of it, but just the science behind how much goes into proving out these carcasses.
Right.
So we'll have 2 farms, 2 grand champions, 2 reserve grand champions, as part of the sale between us and Barry and them at Wagyu Shimizu.
That'll be great. Do you have embryos for sale out of some of these great carcass producers?
We'll have some embryos for sale in the sale. I don't believe we have any of Larry's embryos in the sale. Like Jessica said earlier, we are selling the first female out of Larry. We're selling the first granddaughter out of Larry. We're selling the first bull out of Larry. So Larry's well represented. His semen will be available in the sale to sell, but I don't believe we have any embryos sired by him for sale. We have another little young bull. He's got really good genomics, and I know you're not a big genomics person, but we have a bull, TNO, Kimmy Mojo 29K, and we actually sold 50% of him at the conference sale last year down in Texas. And to our amazement, we got a really good group of people that bought into him, and we're going to try our best to really make him all he can be. Sheila at Vermont Wagyu was one of the ones that bought into him, which we were shocked that we would ever produce anything that was at the quality that Sheila would want to buy into and introduce into her program. So we
Well,
were honored
that's
by that.
great.
Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
also,
And I'm not against genomics. I just like to see the carcass, you know. And I will say I have seen some of our, like, especially cicada genetics, that if you look
Mhm.
at Australia, they're not really doing that great. But when I look at carcasses, they're off the chart. So, you know, I just go, I'm just so used to going by the carcass. That's the thing.
You can't argue with that carcass when you cut into it and you see what's there. It's no arguing whether it's good or whether it's not. It is what it is.
Right.
he's
And
got
Jessica will
marble findings.
understand.
I think what he has, the Mojo, Kimmy Mojo has a lot of carcass qualities with marble fineness, right?
So he's like the highest marble and finest bull as far as by breed plan in the U.S. right now. But back to the group that bought into him, Mark and Lane.
Brisson with Mirage Wagyu, and then there was actually a Mark and Kevin are part of a Vermont Cattlemen's, which is a larger group of people. They are an F1 producer that's trying to focus on putting Wagyu over dairy, and they are probably the biggest partner that we have. I think, what do you say? They're trying to produce 500 carcasses a year.
They're going to try to kill 500 carcasses a year out of our 29K bull that we all own together to prove them out. And we actually invested in a lot of Michifuku semen too. So they'll use 20 straws or so of the 29K bull, and then they'll use a straw of Michifuku, and they'll use 20 straws of our bull and a Michifuku, just so we can have something with as much data as Michifuku has to compare our young bull against. And
Well, I
really
wish you'd have put 20 straws of Larry in there too, you know.
I'm sure we could get it in the program.
We'll get it into the program at some point.
I mean, I would like to follow that, you know, just for research. I'd like to see what that produces over. Is it Holstein or Jersey?
Holsteins.
Holsteins.
Holstein.
Yeah. So back to people being excited for you, being a small program and people being happy for you. And just like we were talking about when Joe bought our steaks from the Triple Crown the first year, reaching out. When we sold 29K at the conference, we had so many friends that they were just as excited as if it was their bull selling there. Reed Smith with Wilders, he didn't really agree that we should sell 50% of the bull, but the night of the sale, he was just as excited as if it was his bull that was selling. Joe Pettit and his wife Erica came and sat down beside us. They were rooting for us. Even Mark McDonough, the director from Australia, he was there. He came over and shook our hand after they bought into it. The people from Iron Table, I think they participated in the Triple Crown this year. They were high-fiving us in the hallway and just as proud for us as if it was their animal that is sold. And some of those people we have good relationships with. Some of those people we just met when we were down there. But they were just as happy and proud for us. And knowing that somebody like Sheila bought into it, knowing that the F1 producers bought in it, and we're going to produce 500 progeny a year out of him to get the carcass quality and seeing us getting a little bit of value for our hard work and everything. It was just very cool to be surrounded by just good people. Had nothing to gain by us selling the bull or doing well with the bull, but just extremely happy for us.
And I think it ended up being the highest selling lot in the Signature Series sale at that conference, was that 50% ownership of Mojo.
Wow, that's amazing. That's great. That's just wonderful. I want to follow it and want you to, let's check the carcasses. Let's do some profiles. I can do profiles, you know, on some of the animals through the Purdue research. We can do that. And because I'd like to add, but of course, you're talking years off, you know. But
As soon as we get some progeny on the ground, I'm sure we'll get some Triple Crown entries to you.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
You'll see him in the future. We're planning on putting 29K over some of the Larry daughters and seeing what we can produce for the Triple Crown and that.
Yeah.
But speaking of following along, go ahead.
I just love the way And I want people to understand when you have this is why I get so excited about breeders uh, like the Winalls, when able to actually follow genetics through the years with the kind of testing that we do, I get very excited about it. And all of the people you've talked about, I know Iron Table, they produce great beef too. I mean, everyone you're talking about are the kind of producers I'm telling you that are very conscientious and, really put their all into it. So it's going to be exciting to see what comes of that.
We don't know the Iron Table guys that well. What we know of them, we love. I know Dr. Horner is working with them close on the feed program and helping them feed the animals out. And I think they're building their program from the ground up, step by step. They're not just diving into it. And I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with for a long time to come in the Wagyu breed. The other one I mentioned is Wilders. I don't know how familiar you are with Wilders, but they're
I'm not, but I wanted to meet them and maybe do a podcast. They've really put out a lot of advertising, and I'm excited that they're so into the genetics and producing great carcasses.
they're a great group of people, just down to earth, hard worker. They outwork anybody in the industry. Reed's extremely successful in his construction companies and everything, but they just working harder than anybody. But they actually have with their newsletter, they have a progeny test program that they're going to share all the data with everybody, and people can follow along. They're going to take 6 different sires and breed them to a bunch of different cows. They're going to show the conception rates on which ones had the best conception rates, which ones had the worst. Once the calves hit the ground, they're going to share the birth weights with you. They're going to share um, how many calves they lose or how many calves they don't, and which bulls have the best rates there. They're going to follow it all the way through from when they take them off the mounds and wean them to put them into the feedlots and feed barns, and then they're going to share the data when they process them too. They can share the carcass weights. They're going to share the marbling scores and everything. So
Yeah, the
I
age
know
and
a lot of people,
harvest.
the age of harvest, they're going to share everything. So I know a lot of people follow the breed plan a lot and the genomics, and every month or every 2 weeks when they update, everybody wants to send stuff back and forth and kind of watch as the genomics change. But I really think people are going to be watching the Wilders program the same way and be excited every quarter when it comes out with the new data and everything, being able to share that and seeing what bulls are outperforming other bulls. And there's some bulls that we know that are going to shine at the growth early on, but they might not be shining so much when the marbling hits. So it's going to be great to watch that wave and see which ones are good in which categories, and then which ones are consistent from start to finish. So we're excited
That's
about
right.
sitting on the sidelines and really seeing that true data come out.
I agree 100%. Well, I have enjoyed talking with y'all so much. Is there anything you want to leave with, or have we missed anything?
I don't think so. I think we've covered things. We really enjoyed speaking with you and enjoy your knowledge. And again, you seeing so many carcasses and you picking Larry out as a bull that you think something of means the world to us. It's one thing if somebody just likes what we're doing based on something small, but you see so much and have gravitated towards Larry and what we've entered into the Triple Crown from him. It just means the world to us,
I,
for our
I
family.
just
And
want everybody to know I picked out Larry early on in the very beginnings of their journey.
you absolutely did. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
I know a good thing when I see it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Well, I
If
really
it
wish you the
Well, I
best
don't
of.
know if y'all would have ever gotten him to get him collected. I mean,
yeah.
it was hard. We battled, because he's always in the field with the girls. But we took him out, hauled him to Iowa, and then you were probably the first person to buy Larry Seaman. You sell it too. Many people I get calls from, like Jason said, I'll get calls from people that said they need to buy Larry Seaman because they talked to Desi. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay. They don't even have to tell me what bulls want a semen out of if they talk to Desi. I know exactly who it is.
You know where it's going.
Yes.
Well, I'm excited to see how he does now on everybody's cattle. This is going to be great. And I'm especially excited about the OP76 had the winning Angus entry
Mhm.
in the Angus category, and they're the ones that bought the Larry Seaman. So he's actually going to be in that F1. I can't imagine. I can't wait to see what he produces with those kind of Angus at OP76 with
Yeah,
Joel
we're
Hopper.
extremely excited to see. I think you said they had good conception rates and they were happy with the conception rates and the pregnancy rates and everything that they got putting Larry over their Angus girls. And hopefully they make some
Yes.
really, really impressive carcasses.
Right. I think when you get a great bull that does not just the marbling, but the tenderness and the taste, I mean that's the holy grail right there of what you breed for. So, congratulations on doing such a great job and for being so consistent, and I'm very excited to see what's in the future for you guys.
Well, thank you again for all your support, Desi. You've been tremendous for our little program.
Okay, well, we thank you all for listening, and we hope you've enjoyed it. And you know who to call to talk to Jessica or Jason if you have any questions. And here's to us getting better and better every year in the future of Wagyu. Bye.